Hello, I am Luna Mystica, and today I bring to you a new member of life. This is Little Black Sheep Rebel, and I'm gonna put her down because Mom is here and she's ready for her baby to come back. Hello, in this video I am sitting amongst some amazing little creatures, my sheep friends, my sheep family. I've recently transplanted, pretty much changed my life overnight. In the last 3 weeks, I have spent grounding down and becoming accustomed to a completely new life. If you've been following any of my videos, you know that I quit my long-term job as a nurse, and I left the town that I was in. I was just there for 10 months, but I decided that it was not a good fit. Everything about it was wrong. It was actually where I was transplanted in order to move through a real dark night of the soul experience, which was actual hell and miserable, but it was valuable. I am now in another living situation where I'm going to be on a farm for a little bit, and I'm going to be learning a lot from these guys that are behind me, just hanging out, eating grass. It's the life of the sheep. They have a lot to teach us. That's what we should all be doing. Maybe not eating the grass part, but... So, 10 months ago, about the time that I was placed in hell, we're going to call this place hell, because it was actually like a purgatory, and again, a very valuable experience that I am so grateful to not be in anymore. For anybody who understands what the dark night of the soul is and how good it feels to be released from that, perhaps at another time I'll make a video on what the dark night of the soul is, because it's real shit. It is where we are placed in situations where we are taken away from things to distract us, and encountering energy of perhaps our past or of things that are going to trigger us to re-experience emotions that we've been holding on to from things that have occurred in our past, so that we can actually release them and return to our innocence and our love and our vulnerability, which is what we came here, right? And that's what these sheep are all about for me. Sheep are symbolic of innocence and vulnerability. They thrive on followship, meaning that they like to be led. And me being here working with them, I actually I see the lesson in that. Our innocence and our vulnerability, it needs a leader. And so for myself, I'm learning how to step up into that in my own way. And that's so important that we're all learning that trait, particularly those of us who have come from family systems that have not taught us those values and those core necessities, right? That's what survival is. It's not being out, being inauthentic to yourself. Survival is leading yourself in vulnerability and in innocence to be able to experience joy and to be able to openly receive love and stay in your place of peace. That's all of our birthright. Like, we all came here into that, and then, that's removed by all the shit and all the experiences that we have to go through, which is our job as our own inner parent to keep us in that center and in that place. And that's part of the lessons here, right, on this earth, that we're all learning. So what I want to talk about is how I'm finding my sense of belonging, and how realizing that you can't receive from this earth if you don't feel like you belong. It creates a wall, it creates a barrier. It's interesting this morning that I had to make a fence for these little guys out here. Every couple of days we have to move fences around in their pasture when they've eaten up all the grass, we have to move it somewhere else. And I've spent years actually trying to knock down fences around my heart. And actually, this morning, making this fence was frustrating me. And maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe there's a part of me who's getting tired of creating fences, and the whole fence thing was just kind of triggering the exhaustion from having had done that. This fence is different though. This fence is actually protecting innocence and vulnerability, which these little creatures are. I mean, we've got one in here that's just 2 days old, you know. How do we continue to protect our innocence and our vulnerability without creating a whole fucking wall around it, and letting life continue to move through and breathe in it? It's a very intricate process, which is part of probably some of my new learning lessons. So we'll come back to this, but I also want to talk about the black sheep and how in my own family system, I've always tended to feel this way, right? The black sheep is the one who generally would not be accepted into the group. And first of all, what I want to point out with where I'm at is literally in this field, there is a balance of black and white sheep. There is not just one black sheep, but there are many black sheep, and everybody's out here getting along and eating grass and having a good time. So what does that say about inwardly where my black sheep's at? Before I made this film, I wanted to Google the definition of black sheep, which I did, and it said something along the lines about the black sheep being the disgrace of the family. And, you know, actually, like, probably at some point I was told that in my family, because like many other people, I've come from some pretty deeply toxic family shit. And so how many of us are made to feel that way, that we're disgraced, right, for being different, for wanting to be free, for whatever makes us different and unique from the others. But at the same token, like, honestly, in the situation that I'm in, it's all blended together. There isn't just one, there's many. So there are many of us black sheep that can come together in unity with family. And that's what I'm finding right now, is my sense of belonging, not just here, being in nature, having had quit that job that felt like shit. I have no idea what's coming next, and that's fine, because as choppy as the winter was, like, that was also preparing me to just be still and be okay with not knowing what's coming next, and knowing that when you're making the decision to support your soul instead of support your ego and what your survival instinct or your survival brain tells you that you should be doing, you're actually going to be supported by this earth when you start to also cultivate the feelings of mothering yourself and your inner child. Mother Earth can also show up and respond to you and give to you the tools necessary to move forward and carry out what it is that you're supposed to be doing next, whether or not you know what that is. Going with that call of knowing that something is not right and deciding to leave it behind can create more magic and more opportunity than our brain can fathom and be okay with, right? It's that thing of following your heart and following your innocence and following your vulnerability, being your own leader of that, and also knowing that it's safe, right? Because you're protecting those places around you and your peace, showing up for yourself in that. I had some profound healing happen with my mother right before I came here. While again, like, sharing my part of this, my story of the very intensely toxic family system I came from. And so many of us did. And that's why so many of us are, like, running around here doing fucked up shit in the world, because we don't know how to act any different, right? Because we're so dysregulated from the shit we grew up with. And then there are also those of us who are working on our healing, which is a messy and a terrifying process at times. I had a lot of things in the last 10 months. So again, just sharing like my personal experience with what's happened. Both of my parents are difficult people. My dad is actually not somebody that I can actually have a face-to-face relationship with right now. A lot of what's happening, and it's still pretty deep, because over the last 10 months I had to go into some really deep, gnarly shit that had happened with him, and recognizing that sometimes two people are not going to be in a place to come face to face for healing. Maybe the other person isn't going to be able to show up for that, and you have to learn how to be okay with that. But then to be able to try to drop into the compassion of that for yourself. And again, like, my healing has been acknowledging the things that I experienced through this relationship and the things that happened to me. Like, just the simple acknowledgement of that really reverses some of that energy of resentment and that unworthiness and that inability to receive. But again, also knowing that there needs to be patience with that some of that may turn itself, the volume up on itself, as you are learning how to come back home to yourself, right? After these experiences of the things that took you away from that to begin with. There's still going to be fear, and there's still going to be things that are delicate and that need to be maneuvered around with patience, right? Lightly building a fence, right? Protecting that. But recognizing that some of these relationships that we've had in our family systems necessarily won't thrive or have the opportunity to do a face-to-face healing. But in regards to my mother, I have a very different perception on her than I did, and I think that this is also helping my sense of healing my belonging, particularly those of us that have a messed up connection with our mom, like the person that brought us into this world. And even when we're in that womb space, when we're in the mom's belly, if there's stuff going on with her, we're going to inherit that energy, right? And the stuff from our past and all this. I'm going to probably make another video at some point on ancestral healing, because that's where this rabbit hole that I'm getting ready to go down with that. But as far as my mom's concerned, a lot of things happened with her too that were toxic and that were not ways that would be supportive to a young girl growing up. But I look at her differently right now, and I can't say this for my dad. My dad's different. That's still going to take a little bit of time. But I look at my mom and I realize that she probably actually too went through a lot of the same things I did, and unfortunately she became too comfortable in being in that energy, or too, also a combination of being too afraid to release it and do the work, right? Some people just can't show up in that power. So I do have that understanding of that now, and we actually had some very healing conversations before I came here. But what I truly believe broke that energy was my ability and my willingness to step up to parent and nurture myself and my inner child, particularly in the last 10 months, in this experience that I had where I was being faced with like so much stuff from my past. And this was like stuff that was triggering events from when I was a little child, right? I didn't have my parents there for them, and again, I didn't have my parents there for them. So what needed to happen was that I needed to step up for myself, which is what I did. And so now I have completely surrendered that and removed myself out of that energy because I acknowledged it. And now I'm sitting here on this beautiful farm with these great little creatures around me, feeling more joy in my life and more sense of belonging than I ever have. And even the people that own and operate this farm, that live here, that are sharing the space with me, it's like so far-fetched different from the family system that I grew up in. There's so much love and so much support and so much joy here, and I didn't grow up in that. And when we don't grow up in that, it can be really hard to manifest that and cultivate that in our life, regardless of how much we may want it, right? Because if we're still holding all this shit from our past inside of us, like animals, like when this energy went in, it's perhaps it was this whole like fight or flight thing. Like we don't move energy out of our body or experiences out of our body if we're frozen, right? Or if we just flee from them, which, I mean, how many of us do that? Like I do. I've done it. I have either frozen completely and not dealt with something, or I have just completely abandoned it and left, right? So how do we actually get into that space, you know, where we can nurture ourselves and sit with that? And I'm here to say that once you do that, your life can shift completely overnight. Not to say that the shit's not going to come up. That's going to be terrifying, because then when we do come up into a new life, into a new experience, and I've been honestly just in a place of receiving for the last 3 weeks, and receiving so much love and so much joy and so much support. It's also terrifying too. It takes time to ground into it, right? Because then again, like the things are going to come up again, and the people, there may be people trickling in, just like there were here on this farm. I had a couple people trickle in that reminded me of some other messed up relationships in my family, which wasn't to the extreme that I was dealing with when I was in the last place I was living. But being able to cultivate that sense of peace within myself in order to just deal with it and not let that remove me from this beautiful experience that I'm in. So us also not allowing our mental space and other people to disturb our peace, right? Once we've actually come into that, to that space of peace. So that's where I'm at right now, finding my sense of belonging after being the black sheep and the rebel, and completely saying I'm not gonna live in this type of situation anymore, where I'm not being true to myself regardless of what everybody else thinks. Really standing up for that. And again, the last 10 months of being in that place where I was not supported at all, and the woman that I am, and the things that I have to share, and just feeling like I belonged somewhere, and being like, yeah, well, fuck you anyway. Look at that. There's a white sheep and there's a black one. See? Look at them together. And they're just eating grass. See, this is how we cultivate our light and our dark sides. We let them come together in balance, and we love them. Saying fuck you to what's not working, what's not true to your soul, and creating what it is that does feel aligned. Sheep butts. Oh, 2 black sheep. Let's see, who is this? This was Pope. He was born on the day the Pope died. Hey. He's actually a menace. Anyhow. Coming home to your sense of belonging. Surrendering to dark night of the soul experiences, surrendering to all the emotions, surrender to all of it, so that you can come back into your innocence, your peace, and your joy. Allowing yourself to come back to who you were before you stopped being it. Peace.